With me to discuss all this is Tariq Ramadan, Islamic scholar and author of Islam and the Arab Awakening. Tariq, I'm going to get you in just a moment, but first I want to turn to Jihad Haddad in Cairo. He's senior advisor to the Muslim Brotherhood and its political wing, the Freedom and Justice Party. Mr. Haddad, thank you for being with me again. Let me get you straight away about the protests and what we can expect from the Egyptian authorities. We've got live pictures, they're still carrying on. What is the aim of the Egyptian government and security personnel regarding these protests?
I think the aim is clear, and as President Morsi reiterated it, it's to protect the embassies, their vicinities, their physical building and the staff. I think that the police force on the ground has been upped considerably since the past 2 days. They're escalating in numbers in order to counter these violent actions that are happening. And I think that if they keep this going and if all embassy staff and buildings remain safe, they should be in the clear.
I can hear a little bit of what sounds to me like perhaps gunfire or rubber bullets. I'm not sure whether I'm accurate, but clearly it's still tense. And there is a big protest planned for Friday by the Muslim Brotherhood. What is the purpose of that? Could that not inflame the situation?
Certainly. Well, the situation started in flames since that movie reached the Arab public opinion and the Arab mass media. Which is unfortunate that it did, because it strikes a lot of anger. Now, the problem is that it has already ignited in flames. These flames, when they started with the angry mob protests on last Tuesday, which the Muslim Brotherhood did not either participate with in the beginning or the end, they resulted in vandalism and violent action, which we all condemned. Thus, the Muslim Brotherhood is resetting the scene and giving the proper direction of how Egyptians should express their anger within a peaceful context that does not abuse international law and that protects respects the laws of civil, peaceful expression of opinion. And thus, the marches that were called for and the demonstrations by the Muslim Brotherhood will happen tomorrow, Friday, distributed across all mosques in Egypt, much more controlled and peaceful in nature, because this is a slogan that we never jeopardize.
And as we still hear that gunshot, I mean, I know you're talking to me and you probably don't know what's going on, but if you do, let me know. I want to ask you, what about this?
I can explain to you what's going on now if you need to.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, at the moment, there's between 100 and 500 scattered individuals, unrelated to any of the political parties or social grassroots movements in Egypt. They are currently throwing stones, throwing the smoke bombs back at the police forces and trying to penetrate the barricade leading into the US Embassy. What we don't know is their motives. The Egyptian authorities have arrested 6 individuals last Tuesday, but no details have been released about who they are or how they related to it. But what we understand is that they were part of the vandalism that happened at the US Embassy. And I think that if they made sure that these protesters did not penetrate the barricade, and they should be investigated afterwards, and how this escalated to this level, we should be able to give a clearer picture on the motivations that escalated this from a peaceful demonstration into such violent and vandalism actions.
Well, we'll go to you, hopefully, when you know more about what motivated them. But let me ask you, finally, this business about whether Egypt is an ally or not. You heard me say the White House told me that this does not signify a change in U.S. policy. Does Egypt worry about whether the United States is going to, I don't know, downgrade relations?
Well, I think that the very positive effort that has been put in the past couple of months between US diplomats and Egyptian diplomats on rebuilding and redefining the US-Egyptian relationship is working in the right direction. It's very unfortunate that all of these events happened specifically on the night of 9/11, which is very symbolic in its nature, and also specifically after the leave of the delegation of US businessmen. Unfortunately, all of these accumulation of events have, let's say, destabilized the image of Egypt in the international world's eye. But we also, as much as we understand President Obama's comments in their own context, as he stated, I think that the understanding also extends to the Muslim Brotherhood and the Freedom and Justice Party's comments in the context of Egypt. And we cannot let any type of lunatic individuals on one side or angry mobs that turn into violent, active mobs dictate how the strategic relationship between 2 very significant countries in the world like Egypt and the US define.
Jihad Haddad, that was a very strong affirmation of what you hope will happen. You've certainly got your work cut out for you, and we'll be watching closely. Thank you very much for joining me. And I want to turn now to Islamic scholar Tariq Ramadan, as I said, author of the book Islam and the Arab Awakening. You've heard all that's going on. You've heard what the United States has said too. This has got nothing to do with the US government. And actually, I just want to play what Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said today about this movie.
To us, to me personally, this video is disgusting and reprehensible. It appears to have a deeply cynical purpose to denigrate a great religion and to provoke rage. But as I said yesterday, there is no justification, none at all, for responding to this video with violence. We condemn the violence that has resulted in the strongest terms, and we greatly appreciate that many Muslims in the United States and around the world have spoken out on this issue.
It's categoric. There's no room for wiggle there. She's very, very strong about denouncing this video and denouncing the violence. Is this situation that has erupted now going to put the Arab Spring and the United States on a difficult path? Is it derailing the Arab Spring?
You know, I'm not always in agreement with the American policies, but I should say that what I heard from Hillary Clinton on this is clear, and this is exactly the right position. It has nothing to do with the American administration, and nothing can justify what we are seeing in Libya or in Egypt, and we have to condemn this. And it's very important for us as Muslim scholars and intellectuals to be clear that there is an accepted diversity in Islam, but there are things that are anti-Islamic, and this is not acceptable. To start with this. The second point is, yes, we can see people nurturing this and pushing in that direction. And we see that at the beginning, the people who were demonstrating were mainly Salafi. And we know now the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt are in a kind of a competition as to the religious credibility. Are we with the West, or are we more for Islam? The Salafi are pushing. They are pushing in Egypt, they are pushing in Libya, they are pushing in Tunisia. And this is what I'm trying to explain in the books. One of the main challenges for the Muslims is really this internal discussion. So if now we have these groups pushing, and it's out of control, because now we don't have the Salafi. We have people who are coming, young people, they are coming and they want to show that we are against the West, we are against the Americans. And it could be out of control and change the whole thing. The answer to this, as to the Arab awakening, is to say, don't confuse these people with millions of Muslims, not only many, millions of Muslims who took into the street peacefully, non-violently, against dictatorships, and they are Muslims, and this is Islam.
Absolutely. But how, to your point about this challenge of this internal war, if you like, how will these millions who demonstrated peacefully for democracy, and how will the governments that have come out of that rein in the hardliners? Or is it a perpetual struggle? They don't want democracy. They don't really want what these governments are bringing.
This is very important, and this is why, for example, when dealing with all this and trying to understand what was happening and trying to come with the current challenges after the uprisings and after the dictators were removed, as we are now, what I'm trying to study in the book and coming to the point here is really to say, okay, what are the challenges? One of the challenges is really this relationship between the Salafi that were yesterday not involved in politics, and over the last 3 years now we see them involved in democratic process. Hizb Noor in Egypt, in Tunisia. It's very important for the Muslims here to clear this and to take strong position, not to enter into a position. This is why I can understand what is said about, you know, having a demonstration today led by the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't think it's the time. It's a message that it's sent to the Salafi by saying we also care about Islam, but it's very sensitive.
But they're saying they're trying to take ownership of these demonstrations and leech out the violence.
But
let me just ask you,
difficult.
We should say you're no ordinary scholar or intellectual. Your grandfather founded the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood defied so many expectations by basically coming into power around the Arab world right now. There are constitutions that are going to be written. Is the Muslim Brotherhood going to be the face of democracy that you can live with, that we can live with, that the majority of people in the Arab world can live with?
Once again, we have to look at what happened over the last 50 years. They have evolved, and now they are saying that we want to promote a civil state, we want rule of law and all this. 10 years ago, when Erdogan came to power, many people were asking the same question, and we saw that he was dealing with the secular system and promoting now something which is mainly accepted by the world, even though it's not perfect.
So you're saying Egypt could be a Turkey?
Egypt could be Egypt, and with the Muslim Brotherhood, it could be a democracy. Now, what we want to see is the true challenges. I don't care myself about, Islam is telling me a civil state. What I want to know now, which type of Islamic reference are we going to have? Which kind of transparent democratic processes are we going to have? What are we going to do for education? And the main question is about education, job market, unemployment. It's not about this very silly, superficial discussion that we have between the secularists and the Islamists. It's deeper than that. It's political and economic policies that have to be questioned.
How do you see it playing out, briefly?
So far, I'm not very happy. I think that we are very far. We are exactly with what we are seeing now. And this is why from the very beginning, when I was talking about the Arab awakening, I was saying we have to be cautiously optimistic. This is what could happen when, we have this kind of polarization. Let us hope that coming from Egypt, coming from Libya and Tunisia, we have a political vision which is transnational, promoting democracy, but also referring to Islam in an open way.
Tariq Ramadan, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks a lot.